WNBA, as you know, they're calling for players in the WNBA are calling for more money. They 9%, I believe, accordingly. They get 9% of total revenue compared to roughly 50% of the revenue of NBA players. Should they be getting a larger share of the revenue in the WNBA? Dramatic way, and if so, is that good for the game?
Well, there's no question it's changed the game. I think analytics have taken over in every sport, and it's an inefficient shot.
Like, he just had a meeting with the heads of NBC, Amazon, and ESPN. Do you think they want to hear that? Like, they're not looking for fans to consume content through social media. They want fans on media. They want fans subscribe. All these guys paid a premium, billions of dollars, $77 billion over 11 years. They're not paying.
There's a point when you're scrolling and something unexpected stops you halfway. You go back, you read it again, slower this time, just to make sure the words say what you think they say. That was the reaction for many people when the WNBA released its 2026 schedule while the collective bargaining agreement remains unresolved. This is not secondhand reporting or speculation. The league itself published it. The dates, matchups, planning windows are all in the open. And it's immediately changing how the upcoming season will look like. Because right now, the decision is shifting everyone's attention away from negotiations toward expectations. And that shift is too fragile to ignore.
It's also interesting how much Adam Silver has started stepping into these conversations around the WNBA CBA. It seems like he is going to do whatever he possibly can to stop a lockout from happening. Now, can he step in so much and stop some of these players from, if they are able to get $50, $100 million from another league, or if he's able to stop them from doing that? I'm just not sure. But it seems like the WNBA has a little bit more of a runway right now, and Project B is expected to start next November.
To understand why this move is scroll stopping, we must look at who has transformed modern league strategy more than anyone else: Adam Silver. The NBA commissioner has spent over a decade dealing with high-stakes negotiations, fan pressure, and public leverage across multiple NBA labor cycles. While he does not necessarily sit at the WNBA bargaining table, his influence shows up in how situations are structured. For example, this schedule release follows a familiar pattern from his playbook, because instead of addressing negotiations directly, the league adjusted the environment around them. Releasing the schedule reframed the conversation. Fans stopped asking when talks would conclude and started talking about opening night, road trips, and marquee matchups.
Well, I want to ask you one thing else that came out of Adam Silver's, thing that came out of Adam Silver's presser. So our friend Tanya from the New York Times asked a question about how much it costs.
We had a bad answer to this one. Yeah.
To be an NBA fan. And I've seen, bits of this online with different people. There's a good tweet that went around Nuggets Twitter for a while about someone literally adding up, hey, this is how much it costs for me to watch the local games on the local network. Is it Altitude? The local network, right?
Because which Denver's one of the worst. They've had a million problems with their local TV.
Right? It's not free, right? So if you pay for cable, yes, you're already paying for cable, but you pay extra for the sports
another
channels,
tier,
right?
Yeah.
And you pay extra for ESPN. Or you've cut the cord.
We've seen this happen before. When schedules go public, fans begin organizing their time and money. Broadcasters plan coverage. Arenas lock in dates. The season becomes tangible in a way negotiations never are. And once that happens, attention naturally turns toward the people responsible for making those dates real. None of this requires public pressure or statements. The structure does the work. Once the calendar is out, the expectation is movement. Any slack becomes a disruption instead of a bargaining tactic.
WNBA, as you know, they're calling for players in the WNBA are calling for more money. They 9%, I believe, accordingly. They get 9% of total revenue compared to roughly 50% of the revenue of NBA players. Should they be getting a larger share of the revenue in the WNBA?
Yes. I mean, I think the share isn't the right way to look at it because there's so much more revenue in the NBA. I think you should look at it in absolute numbers in terms of what they're making, and they are going to get a big increase in this cycle of collective bargaining, and they deserve it.
This is the very same approach Silver handled past labor tensions. Create momentum elsewhere and let that momentum narrow the range of outcomes. It does not assign blame, and it does not demand compliance. It simply makes stalling harder to justify in the court of public patience. But there's a big consequence for this, and we're hearing there shortly. If you think timing can apply pressure more effectively than speeches, kindly hit subscribe below.
Let's talk about the All-Star game as well, because you acknowledge that what we tried last year maybe a swing and a miss.
Yeah.
What are we going to see this year in terms of the All-Star game? Because the scuttlebutt is it's going to resemble the Ryder Cup.
Well, so first of all, we're going to see the All-Star game back on NBC, so we're thrilled with that. And I think, yes, we're going to look at a Ryder Cup type format, and we're going to be right in the middle of the Winter Olympics, which of course will also be on NBC. So we thought this was the season it made sense to have U.S. versus international competition. So we're playing around a little bit with the precise format. We roughly a third of our league is international, so we have to figure out a way to make it fair to the All-Stars.
Adam Silver's labor history shows a consistent understanding of one core principle. Negotiations rarely turn on private meetings alone. They shift when the public becomes invested in an outcome. In past NBA labor disputes, pressure did not arrive through threats or deadlines. It arrived when fans began to picture games that might not happen, seasons that might be disrupted, and moments they were already anticipating.
You don't subscribe to a cable company, in which case you have to pay Altitude directly, and ESPN has launched this whole independent streaming service. You have to pay ESPN, even if you've cut the cord from your cable company. So that's a cost. By the way, you have to pay for Amazon, and the list kind of goes on and on. NBC, obviously over the air, although how are you getting NBC? Do you have an antenna on your
Peacock,
TV? Or
Peacock too.
That,
I mean, it's
right.
It's part
Peacock,
of
you have to pay for. So there's no question it has become more expensive with this new TV deal to be an NBA fan and watch all the games of your favorite team on TV. And he was asked about that. And I don't know, you just said it's a bad answer.
Releasing a schedule accelerates that process. Once dates are set, fans stop viewing negotiations as abstract disagreements and start seeing them as obstacles. The discussion changes from contract terms to canceled nights, missed debuts, and wasted anticipation. That change in framing is undesirable because public patience is not evenly distributed between leagues and players. This turns fans into an unspoken negotiating force, not because they sit at the table, but because their expectations now exist. When a work stoppage interrupts a season that already has shape and structure, it is harder for the public to separate principle from inconvenience. And right now, the calendar makes the disruption visible.
Brave, stunning, and courageous demands met in the CBA, and the WNBA dropped the schedule. This is, honestly, Adam Silver, this is brilliant. And it's brilliant because you already got so many fans over on your side right now. All right. Everybody's seen what the league has offered. So many fans are like, okay, that's a shit ton more money. Excuse my French. And now you drop the schedule to get all the fans.
This pressure carries extra weight heading into 2026. Caitlin Clark's return raises the stakes in a way previous seasons did not. Her availability, her visibility, and the attention she draws create a level of interest that the league has not consistently experienced. Fans are not just waiting for a season to start. Many are waiting for a specific player and a specific moment, such as never seen. When anticipation centers on something tangible, tolerance for delay narrows. That does not invalidate labor concerns or diminish player rights. However, it changes the environment they operate in. The thing is, expectations are already moving forward, whether negotiations keep pace or not. Hit the like button if you've seen negotiations shift once the public gets invested.
We got it free on social. It's like, that's not where you want people to watch games. In fact, I think that's a problem for the NBA. I think that too many people are watching games that way.
The question I wanted to ask is, there's been a splintering of viewership for the NBA, and everyone can sit there, and there's all kinds of people who now have political positions on how the NBA is doing. But cable TV in general, TV viewership in general, everything is splintering apart. We don't watch one thing as a nation anymore. And it's inarguable that less people watch the NBA than they used to, just because less people watch any one thing than they used to. And the question is leaning on the fact that you are a highlight-oriented sport, and that leaning on the fact.
The previous collective bargaining agreement has expired, and the league is operating while negotiations continue. That part is straightforward. Games can be planned, schedules can be drafted, and teams can prepare, even when a new deal is not finalized. On paper, this looks manageable, but in practice, it introduces uncertainty that grows more noticeable as visibility increases. Operating under old terms means both sides are still bound by rules that were designed for for a different stage of the league's growth. Revenue structures, player compensation, benefits, and season length are all being discussed against a backdrop that has changed quickly. Attention is higher now. Expectations are sharper, which only means the margin for missteps is smaller.
You get the fans excited, it puts the target right back on the players. Oh, you better sign this thing. Y'all need to sign this so we can get to this schedule and get to playing. Guys, last year sucked. Let's just keep it real. It sucked. Caitlin Clark was hurt. That was not what we signed up to watch. But this year, because of the World Cup,
the schedule release magnifies that gap. Once dates are public, the season stops being theoretical. Broadcasters begin planning, arenas lock in logistics, fans arrange travel and time. All of that activity assumes stability, even when the underlying agreement has not yet been updated to match the current moment. This matters more now than it did years ago, because the league is no longer operating below the national radar. Higher attention raises stakes for everyone involved. Players have more leverage, but also more scrutiny. The league has more momentum, but also more pressure to maintain it. Perhaps we should use a simple comparison to narrate this. It is like planning a major event while the final contract terms are still under discussion. You can move forward, but every unresolved detail becomes more visible once invitations go out. The audience notices the tension even if they do not know the fine print.
The WNBA Union released a statement pretty much confirming to the world that they did not come up with an agreement. So now we did a video yesterday pretty much telling you guys what was the next phase. The next phase looks like it's going to be status quo. Now, with that being said, I'm not going to waste any time. We're going to head right on over to X and pull this statement on up. It stated, as the current WNBA CBA expires at midnight, the WNBA PA issued a statement Friday criticizing the league's handling.
What's happening now portrays a league growing into a larger role. Growth brings opportunity, but it also demands clearer alignment between ambition and structure. Type fair deal below if you think transparency matters in negotiations. The schedule does more than list games. It highlights matchups that signal where attention is expected to land. Certain dates stand out because of rivalries, star power, and storylines that fans already recognize. At the center of many of those conversations is Caitlin Clark. After injuries limited parts of the previous season, her potential return carries added weight. Fans are not just looking at opponents or standings. They are scanning the calendar for chances to see her back on the court, fully available, and shaping games again. The schedule becomes a promise, even when no guarantee is written into it. This attachment forms quickly. Once dates are set, anticipation fills the space between now and tip-off. Tickets are discussed. Broadcast windows are locked in more. Fan tweets on X move from hypothetical to specific. Which game, which night, which moment, etc.
It don't look good for the 2026 season. I've been telling y'all over and over again, it didn't look good. It said at midnight, 2022, WNBA, WNBPA collective bargaining agreement will expire. Despite demonstrating our willingness to compress in order to get a deal done, the WNBA and its teams have failed to meet us at the table with the same spirit and seriousness. Instead, they have remained committed to undervaluing player contributions, dismissing player concerns, and running out of clock.
The good thing is, none of this needs to be manufactured. The attention around Clark builds on what has already happened. Her presence has consistently driven viewership, attendance, and discussion. The schedule simply gives that attention a structure to organize around. Her return also amplifies urgency across the league calendar. When one player draws national focus, every game connected to her gains added importance. Opponents prepare differently. Media coverage adjusts. Fans circle dates earlier than they might have otherwise.
We're going to get provided these hateful players don't knock Caitlin Clark out of the games again, we've got a chance to get Caitlin Clark with more Caitlin Clark. Not only Caitlin Clark, but Caitlin Clark representing the Fever and the United States of America in the World Cup. This could be glorious. Let's start here. Erica F455 posted this. Go follow. This is the new State Farm.
Where's Caitlin Clark? Where's Caitlin Clark? Wow, I can't believe that worked.
And then most importantly, this ties back to timing. Releasing a schedule during unresolved negotiations carries more weight when the season includes a return that many people are actively waiting for. The calendar does not create interest, it concentrates it. Drop a fire emoji below if you're waiting to see Caitlin Clark dominate again. The reaction online has been split in a predictable way. A lot of fans are excited. They see dates, matchups, road trips, and something concrete to look forward to. At the same time, there is confusion about why the schedule is public when the labor situation is not settled. Both reactions are happening at once.
Thanks, Jake. State Farm with the assist.
All right. New State Farm commercial. WNBA released a statement, folks. Released a statement. WNBA slated to tip off the 30th season Friday, May 8th. With the WNBA tip-off presented by CarMax. It's really good. It's really good. Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever hosting Paige Beckers and the Dallas Wings. Yeah. This is really interesting.
Some fans are already asking practical questions. Should they buy tickets now? Should they wait? What happens if games are delayed? That uncertainty shows how timing can determine trust. Once a schedule exists, people start making plans, even if the paperwork behind the scenes is unfinished. Media coverage reflects the same tension. Headlines focus on big games and star returns, while side notes mention the unresolved CBA. In modern sports, perception moves fast. What people believe is happening often carries as much weight as what is officially signed. This is how narratives form now, not all at once, but through reactions layered on top of announcements like this.
In a dramatic way, and if so, is that good for the game?
Well, there's no question it's changed the game. I think analytics have taken over in every sport, and it's an inefficient shot to shoot a mid-range two-point shot as opposed to that three-point shot. You know, we've talked a lot about it at the league. I think once we got into the playoffs last year, nobody said they were missing the mid-range two-point shot and the three-point shot as a higher level of difficulty. It's something we continue to look at. I mean, games evolve over time. I mean, just think about from the game last time we were on NBC.
And it all goes back to that first reaction, seeing the schedule and stopping to make sure it was real. That alone tells the story. Pressure does not always arrive through statements or deadlines. Sometimes it shows up through planning, expectations, and momentum that is already moving forward. Fans, players, and the league are all part of this moment now. The season ahead represents a remarkable turning point, not a standoff. What happens next will more than determine team standings. In case you haven't already, hit the subscribe button and keep your fingers crossed, because his season won't just be judged by what happens on the court, but by how the league handled the moment before the ball ever touched down.